Hard cut. Hello and good afternoon. We are back. Welcome to the afternoon session of the second day of the Applied AI in Logistics Conference. My name is Matthias Gardner. I'm with Advantage Austria.
And I'm Clemens Wasner from AI Austria.
And we dive right into our next topic, into our next speaker. And we are very happy to welcome him. He is the CEO and Chief Trend Watcher of Supply Chain Media. And Supply Chain Media is a magazine, a website, a newsletter targeting logistics experts in several industries, from agriculture to machinery or beverages. And the readership is mainly consisting of CEOs, VPs, and high-up management people. The magazine appearing 8 times a year with a large readership around the world. And we see if we have a connection to the Netherlands and say a warm welcome to Martin Lofers. Hello, Martin. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hello. You will share with us today your perspective on the state of European startups in the logistics sector.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And Clemens?
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, funnily, a couple of the startups you were mentioning today was the reason how we initially got to know each other via LinkedIn. So yeah, you tagged some companies that are also part of the program of these 2 days, and then I was thinking, yeah, why not go directly to the source? And here you are. So thanks a lot for tuning in today.
Okay.
And I especially look forward to the Q&A session where you can share even more of your deep and rich experience in this field with us.
Okay.
So with this, I would hand over the word to you. We also tune in the presentation. Yes, here it is. And yeah, the stage is yours, Martin.
Okay.
Thank you. In a few minutes.
All right. Could I start? All right, everybody.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So hello, everybody. I'm going to tell you something about the European supply chain startups at this moment. To start off, I did a workshop 2 years ago with the largest street manufacturing company in Europe, or one of the largest, and we were building a roadmap for the supply chain 2025. And at the end of the workshop, the one-day workshop, the general manager or the CEO asked me, where can we apply machine learning? And I answered, what does the machine want to learn, and based on which data? So, well, he didn't give an answer. So what is the purpose of machine learning or AI? And that's what I'm going to explain. So what you see here, we created a trend compass. And basically what you see, there are different mega trends you can't ignore. Everybody has to deal with it. So from the outside, inwards, you see globalization happening for already a few decades, and then digitalization is popping up since 2010, and now since 2015, sustainability is as a mega trend. You can't ignore it as a company. And last but not least, last year we had pandemics as a mega trend, so that's also impacting all the companies you see, and also your company is impacted in some way. So. And in the end, you have the customer needs in the center of it all. So next, you see innovation drivers. So moving closer to the customer, it could be a consumer or a B2B company. You have different innovation drivers. And you see these circles, the blue circles, you have transparency and visibility. That's an innovation driver for all kind of companies and customers. But you see also safety, privacy, and counterfeit as an innovation driver. Convenience, with e-commerce is an innovation driver. Experience, go into the stores or, in virtual around surroundings. And in the blue circle, you have, of course, the innovation driver is cost. Can we produce it cheaper or deliver it cheaper? Personalization, can you create your own product to the customer? And sustainability is also an innovation driver. So next, we get to the point, okay, but what is your strategy as a company? And, from the north side, the purple arrow, are you a product leader? So do you compete on your product, on the quality of the product? and the middle blue one to the left? Or are you having a strategy of operational excellence? Are you winning on cost, lowest cost? Or are you focusing on customer intimacy? Is that your strategy? So there are different strategies. And to make it a bit more clear, so are you an Apple? Are you a Walmart or a Cisco? Well, Apple is obviously a product leader. Walmart, everyday low prices. That's the tagline. So they are looking for operational excellence. And Cisco, they assemble solutions for the B2B world in communication. And basically, those are different flavors. And people are saying, you know, we want all those strategies. You can't be Apple, Walmart, Cisco all in once. That's impossible. So you have to have a direction. And of course, if you are Apple and you are a product leader, you have to be aware of operational excellence to some sort. You have to have a minimum threshold to make sure that you are not spending too much cost. Or customer intimacy, okay, you have to listen to your customer to some extent. But being Apple, you don't need to listen to all the needs. You don't want to have all the kind of colors of your mobile phones. You can choose because you are a product leader. And what does it say for innovation? Well, basically, if you are Apple, you look at product innovation. And if you are a Walmart, you look at process innovation first. And if you are Cisco, you look at service innovation. So you have different view on the world, how to service your customer. And by the way, you see the customer needs, but also the buying behavior of customers are changing differently per day, per week, per month, per year. So that's shifting. And it can also be that some product groups, you know, will be sold online and the others will be sold in stores. But it's good to know what is your strategy. So the next step, and then we get in the world of machine learning and AI. So we have done some surveys in the last 2 years, and we have then done surveys among supply chain managers, directors to ask, you know, what are your innovation drivers? And then we ask, what kind of applications have you applied successfully? So where have you applied machine learning and for what purpose? So you see here 18 successful applications of innovations connected to the certain innovation drivers. So, and I explain a few, I'll give you a few examples. So you don't have to read it because it's very small, but you can download all this. But basically you will see in the north area with Apple, you have in the product leadership, you have different kind of applications than in the area of Walmart with process innovation. And the same with the service innovation. So I give you a few examples. So blockchain, you see on the left, blockchain for custom clearance. So it would take 200 documents to get your mangoes from Africa into Rotterdam to get across the custom clearance. So applying blockchain, you can do that within 15 minutes. But that is process innovation. So that's another purpose than to write. You see William Grant and Sons, it's a very expensive whiskey bottle. They track each individual bottle costing $15,000 to $60,000 each to track where are my bottles and who has it in its possession. So there are different applications of blockchain. Now, with machine learning as part of AI, to the left you see real-time transport planning. And here you see an application to cut costs, to make your transport more efficient. And that's another way of using machine learning or AI. Then on the right side, where you have demand sensing, where you have point of sale data to improve your forecasting. So these are totally different applications, but it's all connected with your strategy, your business strategy, and your innovation drivers. So why are you applying machine learning? What does the machine want to learn and why? So what we did in the last 3 years, we researched the whole market of supply chain startups in Europe. And we created this maturity matrix of European supply chain startups. From left to right, you see on the supply side, on procurement side, supplier management to the left. And all the way to the right, you see last mile delivery. So, you know, close to the consumer. And you see all those bars with startups, all those names and all kind of flags. And basically what you see, you have all kind of startups popping up from all over Europe. And all these startups have to be a maximum of 5 years old. And you see also a dotted line. Below the dotted line, they are called startup. They don't have a funding up to 2 million. And above the dotted line, you see the scale-ups. They are more mature, and there are even startups like in the blockchain area funded already with 75 million euros, like Nextship, for example. So we have a whole kind of research going on of how to position the different startups. And then you see some examples. So to the left, you see on the supplier management side, you see a startup from Austria, Prewave, and it's also presented in this conference. And basically what Prewave is doing, they're using artificial intelligence to scrape all the social media, news and blog in all kind of languages. And they use artificial intelligence, so that's not manually done, but the AI is doing all the hard stuff. And basically, they come up with the alerts for the customers to warn them there are some things going on. And so you don't miss things. And if you are a multinational and you are sourcing from all over the world, you want to know that there is a demonstration at a copper mine in 3 days. So it's already looking ahead what can hurt your supply chain upstream. And you see all kinds of alerts popping up. So basically, you get early warning signs. Sometimes you get an early warning sign a few days ahead or even earlier. But basically, manually, you can't do it. You can't go through all the social media news, blogs, and alerts, whatever. You need some AI to filter it, to scrape it, and to make sense of it all. Another interesting application of AI and machine learning is done by Flowity. It's a French startup. And by the way, Flowity has won the European Supply Chain Startup Contest we are organizing every year. And they are focusing on inventory optimization. And how do they do that? They also apply AI, but basically they connect the supplier and the customer to their platform, and they get data out of the ERP system from both the supplier and the customer. And based on those data, they will create forecasts or recommendations what the supplier should be putting on stock and what the customer could expect as a demand from their customer. And in that platform, they use AI to make an intelligent recommendation for both the supplier and the customer. And beyond that, they have also developed their own algorithms for forecasting. So when heuristics and linear programming and all kinds of algorithms, so they have improved these algorithms. And because they are a service provider, so you outsource the forecasting to them, they make sure that they have the operations research experts who know what kind of algorithms you have to use for forecasting of a specific SKU or product group. So, and then they make sure that they use the right algorithm, and algorithms are all AI, to make sure that you get the best forecast for the customer of Flowity. And they have customers like Danone and some other well-known French companies, and they're expanding across Europe quite rapidly. So basically, they are using AI for forecasting. And finally, the third one, it's CargoNext, and you see a lot of road freight matching platforms. So when you have some pallets to be transported, you can go to these platforms, and you see a lot of them, all big ones. And by the way, Uber Freight had failed. So Uber tried to come on to Europe, but they failed, and now they are bought by Sender, the German one on top. But CargoNext is a relatively newcomer, new player in that field. And from left to right, you see different levels of matching cargo, road cargo. And from the left, you see Everroad and Fretlink and Chronotruck. They were all on the previous slide in our matrix. And it's more like a digital broker. and they are matching supply and demand. And of course, they're using AI. They don't do that manually. The next, there are some other startups, scale-ups. I would say Instafreight and Sender and Zaludu. That's a spin-off of DHL. They're looking at workflows, so they use more robotic process automation, that kind of stuff, to make sure that there's hardly any manual work being done. But the interesting part is level 3, and there's where CargoNext comes in. They also look ahead, so they know from the past that there are certain months where you have promotions, and there's a higher need for road transportation capacity. So what they will do, so based on AI, they know when to reserve in advance road transport capacity. So what you see in the regular platforms, they say, hey, we want to transport a pallet today, and it has to be there tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, and that's fine. So that's on an operational ad hoc basis, I would say. But CargoNext, they want to look into the future based on what they have learned from the past. So then there is more predictive utilization of road cargo. And of course, then you get a lot of volume. And I got a comment from one of the VPs of the logistics service providers, one of the bigger ones, and say, this won't happen because there's not enough volume for these platforms. But like CargoNext, is now being used by Henkel. And if Henkel is very satisfied, and they are, and Henkel would say as a multinational to all their suppliers, for the next time, please use CargoNext, then we create volume, and then we can schedule road freight in the near future if we have promotions to the retailers. And then you will get a kind of snowball effect that CargoNext get bigger, and also the others, and then you will see a whole new world. So basically, when you are ordering an Uber, especially in the US, you get your taxi, but also in the near future, it will be like CargoNext and other platforms, but looking intelligent ahead. And then they can, combine flows of cargo more easily. So, and in the end, you have also unmanned trucks, and you get more AI, but we're not there yet. You have to have 5G and so forth and so on. But these are 3 examples of startups in this field, and all these startups are doing relatively very good in spite of Corona. So I would say, there's a thriving market in European startups. So that's for now. I could go on for hours, I would say, but I'm happy to answer any questions from your side.
Yeah, Martijn, thanks a lot for the presentation and the insights. We also posted the link to the publications you mentioned in the conference channel.
Yeah.
And yeah, in order to go on for hours and hours, let's start with the Q&A session. So let's see
yes.
which we received from the audience.
Q&A session is still open, and I'm sure many startups are also watching. And we go to the first question, being how do EU startups in logistics compare to US or Asian startups, like the competition?
All right. In my opinion, the US and also the Asian startups are better funded. They have way more money. But in the end, I think that the European startups under the hood of the car, they have way better engines. You see startups from Fraunhofer Institute, for example, and when you look what they have as AI and machine learning inside, they are way more advanced. So I think that in the US and Asian market, there's way more money. That's for sure. But in Europe, they have tighter financial budgets, but that makes them way more smarter and advanced.
So as a moderator, I can ask stupid questions, but how does that compute? That's interesting. So we go on to the next question.
Yeah, which is shifting from the global perspective to a European perspective. What do you, in your opinion, what are the biggest regional differences between AI logistics startups that you see in your report?
Well, what I see is that, EU is, we don't have the United States of Europe. We have different countries, and we have different languages, and we have different regulations. So I think that the European startups are better in handling all those different flavors. And what you saw last year, even the startups presented maps, visual maps online, free accessible, to show, where were the borders blocked and what is the expected waiting times, that kind of stuff. So European startups were all jumping on that area, whereas in the US, you don't have any borders. So I think that COVID-19 made the startups in Europe even smarter and even more proactive, and dealing with the developments way more quicker than the American ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had yesterday Lisa Smith from Prewave, and the number that comes to my mind is they were able to sign up 800 customers, so the vast majority last year. So that is all COVID induced, which is quite a staggering number for such a young company.
Yes, yeah, we should say.
All right, and moving on to the next, got an upvote.
Yeah, it's related to the fallback solution. It says, in manufacturing, we see many failing startups pivoting to services in order to stay alive. Is there a similar trend within SEM startups, or is it boom or bust?
Relatively, we are doing this research for 3 years now, and I don't see that many startups in supply chain fail. And we are focusing on startups that do a kind of planning, supply chain planning, transport planning, inventory optimization, forecasting. So basically, they have platforms, they have applications. You see some also on some other areas with drones. They are more hardware related, but all the startups we are covering, they are software related, platform related, applications. So the risks are very low. The investments are lower than in hardware. So I don't see similar things like a lot of them failing. And they have all their markets. And as long as I see, they are working on a tight budget, and they can deliver value with the platforms to remain in the market. And sometimes they will be bought, but in the end, I think it's different in the manufacturing where you have more hardware investments.
Mm-hmm. Maybe one follow-up question from my side. Do you see this as a segment with lots of consolidation ongoing or upcoming, like you have, for example, related in gastronomy and restaurant business, because there, or food delivery, this is constantly consolidating?
Yeah, but in the food delivery, I think it's a one-trick pony. You have one kind of service, and yes, some slightly different flavors. But in the supply chain, you have different kind of flavors, and you did different kind of supply chains in the chemicals industries, in the food industries. We did a webinar about blockchain in supply chain a few weeks ago, and we had 5 blockchain startups, but they are all covering different industries. One is in mining, one is in food, one is in container cargo. So you see different kind of environments where they play, and they don't mix that well, or maybe they have their own turf or own niche. And if they are successful and they are expanding around the world is big enough. So I think with the Deliveroo's and so forth, that's a one-trick pony, and you can create your synergy. And here it's different because you have wholesale, retail, last mile. You have the different kind of industries. There's enough room for everyone.
Perfect. And this brings us to the final question, which is actually also picking up what you just mentioned. Where are the markets for EU logistics and SEM startups? Is it mostly Europe, or is there also tendency to internationalize as fast as possible?
Well, if you can handle Europe, if you can handle the complexity of Europe, different languages and different regulations, you are up to the world. So, first start to be successful in Europe, and then you can handle the whole world. That's my opinion. If you go into the US, you'll stumble upon very big startups or scale-ups with hundreds of million deep pockets. But it's a different market. So, but yes, in the end, they can go over there. And that you see with the Risk Methods from Germany. That's a competitor already existing for longer years, moving around the world there. So they are more mature already. So, and look at like SAP. SAP started sometimes in the 80s as a startup. So if you can cover Europe, you can conquer the world.
All right.
Perfect.
And is it possible that the trend report that you mentioned, is it accessible through your webpage?
Yes, this maturity matrix of Q1 2021 will be made available in 3 weeks. So that's the newest one. The last one from last year is available online. You go to supply chain movement and go tools, and you will find all kind of checklists, but also a maturity matrix for startups, but also a roadmap of all kind of supply chain software from SAP, Oracle, and the likes. So we have a lot of software overviews on startups and established companies on supply chain movement.
And I remember during the preparation, you also mentioned that there is a call for startups ongoing or upcoming. Maybe
yes. Yeah, right. So we will have our Innovate event May 18. So then we are organizing an online event like you're doing right now. So that we will have established companies speaking about supply chain management, but we also have a startup contest and a scale-up contest. So on May 18, there will be another contest between the startups and the scale-ups. So all of the position startups will be entering the competition, and you can speak to them at this event with our own booth. You can go to them and you can talk to them. So there's a lot of interaction. So we create this. And we create a free platform for these startups and scale-ups to make sure that there will be a virtual supply chain Silicon Valley of supply chain startups in Europe.
Yeah, this sounds great. If you could provide us the link, we will send it to the participants.
Okay.
Is it that one here?
Yeah, Innovate May 18. That's the one. Yep.
All right. We will be sharing this info with you guys who asked us. And well, thank you so much, Martin, for taking the time.
No problem.
Stick around for one-on-one talks with some of our participants.
Okay.
Best wishes from Vienna.
Yeah, and many thanks.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Martin.
Bye-bye.
All right, and we will be back after a very short break with our panel discussion in 4 minutes. Thank you very much, and see you in a bit. Hello and welcome back, everybody. You notice there has been a change. I'm here now with our friend and partner Jakub Mosiszek from our partner and co-organizer Asilium. Hello, Jakub.
Thank you.
And we are moving on to our next program point, which will be our panel discussion. And for that, let me just quickly see if we already have our guests online, namely Wilhelm Patzner. He is the CEO of Rail Cargo Logistics Austria, part of the Rail Cargo Group. Hello, Wilhelm. And Wilhelm, maybe we have to unmute your microphone.
Yes,
and
hello. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Wonderful. We hear you loud and clearly. And also with us, Thomas Mazzurana from the company Gebrüder Weiss, where he is the innovation manager. Hello, Thomas. Can you hear us?
Hello, loud and clear.
All right. Jakub, the floor is yours.
Very good.
I will stick around for the technical stuff. And
so very warm welcome also from my side, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests. I'm very pleased to welcome you on behalf of AI Austria, Advantage Austria, and of Exilium, which is the company I'm from, to this panel discussion, in which we want to talk about the central question, if AI is the way to go for the logistics industry. My name is Jakub Mosiszek. I'm engagement manager at the consultancy Exilium, which is fully committed to digital transformation, the mobility, respectively, transportation of the future. And also, this is the reason why we are here engaging at the Applied AI conference. Accordingly, in the next 30 to 40 minutes, I want to talk with my guests about one, at least from my point of view, very interesting and also contemporary topic, which is the use of artificial intelligence as answer to the increasing complexity we see in today's globally connected value chains. As we have heard in that context, a lot of interesting keynotes, discussions. Also, we were presented very state-of-the-art use cases during the last 1.5 days already. In this session, we want to pick up this thread and deepen the discussion on AI use cases from the perspective of two international logistics service providers. Namely, on one hand side, we have Wilhelm Patzner from Rail Cargo Logistics, and we have Thomas Mazzurana from Gebrüder Weiss. In particular, we will look jointly at specific use cases which are in place at both companies. We will hear about their success story. And one point which I think is very important, we will also understand the challenges both were facing while implementing AI solutions in their companies. So as mentioned, my guest with whom I will discuss these topics and try to answer the question if AI is really the way to go for the logistics industry, Mr. Wilhelm Patzner and Thomas Mazzurana. Wilhelm, may I pass the word to you? Just give us a brief overview of your person, your company, and also your experience with artificial intelligence.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity. Well, I'm, as you said, CEO of Rail Cargo Logistics Austria, which is the logistics subsidiary of Rail Cargo Group. So we are, let's say, the subsidiary of Austrian Railways for freight transportation. After DB Schenker or DB, we are the second largest railway freight undertaking in Europe. And we have not only the classical rail transportation, we also have rail cargo logistics, which is all the service around rail freight. Just to give you some figures, the total Rail Cargo Group makes around 2.4 billion euro turnover in railway services, and 1 billion out of this is all connected to rail freight logistics, where I'm the head of, and where I'm responsible for 17 countries all over Europe. So I'm coming from I would call it old-fashioned economy, which has a very good, let's say, is a very important column of economy, and our experiences with artificial intelligence are, I would say, rather on a research stage. So we have some kind of pilot projects. We have not really a case yet where I say we make financial benefit out of it, but we believe, especially in our business, it's very important to take care of this issue and to find out where are the benefits and for let's say the financial benefits for our company out of this topic. I've prepared a slide. Can you show it, maybe the 3 pilot projects I brought to this audience?
Yes. 1 second.
I mean, I could start talking while you're looking for the.
Be able to see it in a few.
Well, I will start.
Oh, yeah. Now we have it. Sorry.
We have it. Okay. You can go to the next slide, please. Where are 3 examples? What we are, let's say, on what we are working on. So it's all still in a research mode. The first and very important question for us is, of course, ETA prediction. So in our European railway network, it's very important for us to give a value added to the customer and to make a very precise estimation when our trains arrive. So we are using GPS data as well as historical transportation data and combine it with weather reports, for example, or construction site reports in order to make a very precise prediction of our arrival times. In this project, we try to use machine learning algorithms to combine all this information. And the final target is to provide, let's say, valid and real good based information for our customers. The second part, and this is for us economically very important, is a kind of demand forecasting. So to understand where is the demand for transportation, where is the demand for locomotives, and where is the demand for a specific type of wagons, in order to reduce, let's say, capacity utilization, or let's say improve capacity utilization due to the fact that we send the wagons to places where they are needed. And of course, to understand where we expect the demand to happen. And I will bring you later on an example in the traffic between China and Europe, where this information is extremely valuable and has a deep financial impact. And of course, as we are a networking and network company, and we are not having only block trains through Europe, but we have single wagon traffic all over Europe, it's very important to improve, let's say, the capacity utilization within the network. And there we use also mathematical algorithms based on train kilometers, freight car usage, shunting times, shunting costs, and costs related to wagons and locomotives, in order to give to the customer a good supply of wagons, and in the same time to decrease our costs. So that's the main 3 fields we are working on, and I can go into detail later on.
Yeah,
Thank
I think
you.
for now that's really a great overview of your use cases at rail cargo logistics, and as you just mentioned, later on in the discussion we will go on specific points more into detail.
Okay.
Thank you so far. Thomas, may I ask you to continue and also give a brief overview of your person, your company, and the experience Gebrüder Weiss has made already with AI applications.
Sure. Thanks again for invitation to this panel, and I hope I can add some insights to this interesting conference. My name is Thomas Mazzarana. I'm an innovation manager at Gebrüder Weiss for almost 3 years now. My background is not in logistics, it's in business informatics and sociology, but I have been in touch with artificial intelligence before my work at Gebrüder Weiss, but back then it was called statistical methods and not unsupervised learning. I have a little slide prepared. For those who don't know, Gebrüder Weiss is a transport and logistics company headquartered in Lauterach, Vorarlberg. It's in the most western part of Austria. There are more than 7,000 employees and company owned 150 offices around the world, mainly in Middle and Eastern Europe, but also in North America and Asia along the Silk Road. You can say. In the innovation department, I have a little team of right now 4 people with various topics on the agenda, from trend scouting to internal consulting to doing projects on a proof of concept basis. And of course, an important topic is artificial intelligence. You see in the slide the levels we are dealing with in the company. We have data scientists in the company, but to be honest, they are working more on the descriptive report and monitor level, but they are doing also forecasts, and they do a lot of, to be honest, data engineering. On the next slide, you see some projects we did in the last years. I tried to put them into the categories. For example, in machine learning, we did a project dealing with forecasting of the shipment volume. This was an outcome of a project with a university where historical shipment data is used to forecast the volume of shipment on the following day. And the result is used right now for a better resource plan regarding the number of trucks we order and the employees required for the tasks. It was first a pilot at one branch, and now it's working at a couple of branches. Another project is about customer churn prediction, where we are trying right now, it's an ongoing project, to predict whether it becomes more likely for customers that they will no longer be our customers. There are some difficulties, but interesting question. Similar question is the project default prediction, where we try to predict which customers would default or go bankrupt or stop paying their bills. There was the problem that we had too few negative cases, to say so, to get anything out of the data. On the slide, you see also projects where we use natural language processing. It was more about communicating with the customer. We're developing a virtual assistant chatbot where customers could ask answers and get automatic feedback. For example, where's my shipment? Who is my key account manager, etc. Right now, we are also developing a voice bot or intelligent voice messenger to do how is it said, data aviso with the end customer. And we also are working on visual recognition projects where it's about handling errors in a warehouse, or where it's about freight measurement. To get you some insights in projects on a rather high level.
Many thanks for these valuable insights, Thomas. We also will deep dive on one of the topics later on. So, Wilhelm, you already, during your entry statement, you showed us three use cases you have in place at Rail Cargo Logistics, which one of them was the topic on demand prediction or demand forecasting, where you, I think, have also machine learning algorithms already in place. I think definitely one of the, from my point of view, interesting topics, and one topic which can really add value to your business in the end. Could you please give us some more insights on how demand forecasting works at Rail Cargo Logistics? For instance, maybe which data is analyzed, which environmental factors are considered, and in the end, what is really the value added for your business?
Yes. Let me give you a very concrete example where we would have earned a lot of money if we would have, let's say, finalized machine learning already. Unfortunately, we did, but I give you a very concrete example. One of our products are trains between China and Europe. So the new Silk Way, or the one belt, one road strategy of the Chinese government, pushes trains between China and Europe. And the market level always was that the train prices were much higher than, for example, the shipping lines. If you transport a container from Hamburg to Shanghai on a ship, it's much cheaper than going by train. Due to COVID and economic developments related to it, it happened in the last 2-3 months that there was an extreme shortage of empty containers in China. So the rates really boosted to the sky. At the moment, you pay 5 times the ship rate if you want to bring a container from Shanghai to Hamburg than just 3 months ago. So if a company would have been able to predict that development, you would have earned a lot of money because you would have brought containers to China. And that's a very good example how artificial intelligence could help your business to earn a lot of money. Unfortunately, we were not finished with our project yet, but it again pushed it into the focus, and we are trying to use historical data of commercial flows. The shipping lines, like all the big ones, Maersk, etc., have quite good statistics in the internet. We try to use that data about how the capacity utilization of the ships are. We use data of national economic developments and industry developments, because in China it also relates very strong to the industries, because there are certain industries who are pushed more than other industries. And we try to combine this data in order to predict where will go the transport flows. And for example, one of the reasons why this shortage in China resulted was that China increased after their recovery, I would say, of the first Corona crisis, their economy with USA. So a lot of containers were shipped to USA, and at the end of the day, there were not enough containers for railway business to Europe. So if you would put this, and that's what we are trying, if you put these things into artificial intelligence and machine learning and try to understand and predict how the flows will go, then I think that would be a big help for the economics of a business.
Thank you. Thomas, you also presented a couple of use cases which are currently already implemented or in the process of implementation at good advice. To name a few, you talked about demand prediction of shipment volumes, I think, visual quality control, customer churn prediction, prediction of payment defaults, and so on. Firstly, where do you see the highest value added for your company? So which of these use cases you presented you think is adding the most value? And secondly, why does AI in that particular case really outperform conventional solutions, conventional algorithms?
I think there is value in most approaches or most projects coming from the innovation department. For me, the more interesting outcome is in the projects where you can build new services or products on, and of the new insights you get and the new possibilities you have. I would say one area of the projects we did is more about improving the processes or preventing mistakes. It's more about, I would say, automation, meaning that the computer is doing a task a human would also be capable to do. For example, a human can also detect with high accuracy if an address belongs to a company or a private person from the name, but no one is sitting there doing this task with 1,000 addresses a day. There we have a concrete benefit using a relatively cheap technology. And the things which got into operation have a clear benefit. One is a little bit better, one is a bit less, not so big. The same you can say when you do visual inspection of the freight volume, for example, because the partners and customers are transmitting sometimes wrong or incorrect data. Of course, an employee could measure each package, but in reality that doesn't happen. And as a result, you can generate added value because it gets possible, for example, to optimize the loadings of the trucks based on the data. Like I said, that are interesting benefits you get out of a project you can measure, when you say it like that. On the other side, there are things where it's more about learning, knowing more something of things a human can't do or just with great difficulty. For example, if you detect if a customer wants to leave us, like I mentioned before, on a wide range of information an individual cannot understand, then you would gain an insight you can work on and do another thing. This is difficult to measure. That's why perhaps I don't answer exactly your question.
And when we do look at the other side of the coin, where is AI possibly not a good investment so far in your company? I think you've partially already mentioned one of your points. What are, so to say, or so-called non-success stories from your perspective?
We in the innovation department, we are, I would say, rather in the experimentation mode or learning phase. Perhaps it's a little bit like at Cargo, meaning for us right now, if an outcome of a project is a non-successful one, it's not per se a non-success. But of course, of the colleagues from the departments, they are more interested in working outcomes. And this is as I would say, important thing is, how should I say, the management of expectations, that it's not clear for everybody what AI is meaning and what AI can do. For example, at the address project, when the model has an accuracy of 98%, then it's great, I think. But if the cost in the process of a false negative or a false positive is too high, for example, if you charge a customer something which is based on a model, and in reality it's not the case, then it's a real challenge for the process. And in this case, for example, for our colleagues, it was in the IT, it was very difficult to understand that there is a chance that we are doing something, and in the reality, it's not the case. Another thing, and yesterday in a talk, it was called pitfalls. I would say another problem is in some projects when the problem definition is not 100% clear. If you come rather from the technological point of view and say, that's an interesting thing, let's try it. But from a business side, the problem definition is not defined. Then it's difficult to measure afterwards if it's a project which gain benefits or not. And in the end, the outcome of a project has to make a difference in the business context. Perhaps one last thing. Another problem is, a challenge is that the process of engineering data is almost a very time-costly one. And if you work like we do mostly with third parties, it's something you see when you when you're in the process of the project, then you see that there's a bad quality of data, for example, or missing data, and you can't achieve what you wanted before you started the project. And of course, like other projects, that's not AA related, is the implementation of a proof of concept into operations. The step from a proof of concept to an operating system is a very big one. Mm-hmm. And the second question, you asked me a second question. It was more.
Yeah, actually, what are your non-success stories and what are the reasons behind it? But I think you already elaborated on that one as well.
Jakob, may I comment on that a little bit?
Now I wanted to ask your opinion on the inputs or on the challenges Gebrüder Weiss are facing. Is it like it's rail cargo logistics? Do you share these challenges? Do you have maybe other challenges, other non-success stories you have been facing in the past?
To be honest, I totally agree with Thomas, although we didn't align our answers before. I also take with me two issues which totally fits to his issues. First thing is we are not IT companies. So what we are doing is a lot of selling the results to our clientele, to our internal customers. And I totally agree with him. If we make an algorithm who is super precise, but the people don't buy it and don't see a benefit for the business out of it, it's very hard to sell. And I totally agree on that. And the second point he mentioned, which is the same for us, is data quality. So we see two very strong differentiations. If we take data from, let's say, technical measurements, from the GPS or from the freight wagon sensors, and use this data, the outcome is quite good because the data which goes in is very precise, and the people tend to trust these results much more than if we have to define the data source first. So concerning demand forecasting, it's more or less a human decision what data we put in, and then the results are much more in doubt, I would say, than if the data comes from electronic sensors. So I think the challenging is quite the same, but we found out that we need a lot of time and a lot of resources in the decision of what data to use. And that's a big challenge for an organization. And you need, at the end of the day, again, a kind of management decision to say, okay, we use that source, and not that source. A small example, again, we make some forecasts and use export and import data from Russia, and we use the data source of Russian customs. And customs are always very precise and very in detail, and people tend to believe this, let's say, results much more than if we use, let's say, a statement of the Russian government about the economic forecast in the next 12 months.
Yeah. So just to summarize this a bit, I mean, one big challenge definitely data. So data is key, and whenever you don't have the correct data, the result never can add such a value as maybe is expected from it. And another thing which I would interpret based on what I've heard now from both of you is that there needs to be a business case behind it. So whenever you are implementing, or as a company you are looking at use cases for AI, it needs to be clearly defined what kind of use case is it, what really is expected, and what is the business case behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Coming now a bit back to our initial question, which is AI the way to go for the logistics industry? Thomas, from your point of view, is it? So is AI the way to go for the logistics industry? Where do you anticipate maybe in future further potentials for your company, for Gebrüder Weiss? What could be further or future use cases at Gebrüder Weiss?
I think artificial intelligence is the way to go in every industry. With digitization, artificial intelligence comes along. I think in logistics there are promising areas. I talked about automated communication. I think there are new custom experiences possible through chatbots, through automatic answering of mails, or triggered events through inquiries. I think that this is a very interesting topic. You can go from transparent supply chains to self-steering supply chains. This is something we try to start. A digital twin is something which is like the elephant in the box. You can do anticipatory logistics, also a big word. You can start processes even before the first event starts, based on forecasts and predictions. And one thing we didn't talk right now was the area of robotics and autonomous trucks or forklifts. I would think there are a lot of use cases in this area, but to be honest, I think these are expensive use cases if you want to invest in these things, and I'm not sure if the technology is as mature as some can read in the newspaper. One thing is that I think that our artificial intelligence will go into regular software and programs. I would think that will be more standard if you think about ETR or other analytical approaches. The question from a company's point of view is what competitive advantages you will gain by using artificial intelligence, and where do the benefits really coming from? Do you depend on good models or good technology, or is it more about a good data or unique data? And there are a lot of promising areas in theory, but there are long and hard steps you have to go to get here. And yeah, I showed you some examples, and when I was preparing for this talk, I hoped I can show you more, but in the end, you need time to learn and experiment.
Definitely. Wilhelm, also the question in your direction, from your perspective, is AI the way to go for logistics industry? And which future use cases do you have on your mind for your company?
Definitely, but I can bring artificial intelligence also into connection with culture, with corporate culture or industry culture. So as I mentioned in my entrance statement, I understand us a bit of like an old-fashioned company, and I see a fast future in, for example, maintenance cost prediction or maintenance cost optimization for wagons and locomotives when the data comes from technical sources. I think the people and the culture in our group is keen to take these recommendations. When I talk about demand forecasting and taking business decision, I would like to state an old Austrian philosopher, Sir Karl Popper, who said the future is open. So we in our culture don't believe that much on the prediction, which have directly, let's say, a business impact on our customers. So I think we need more time on that, but definitely we have to deal with that. And there are a lot of fields which we didn't even look at yet. So definitely there's a big future, but how much you can take out of it, I believe belongs, relates to the culture of your company and of your industry, and logistics might need a little bit more time, at least for the railways, not maybe at Gebrüder Weiss. And by the way, my colleagues who prepared me a little bit also for this talk said, please make contact with Thomas Mazzurana. The topics he might say are very interesting for us. So I would like to connect also via this way with you, Thomas.
I would like to.
Okay.
Thank you, Willem. I think the point on culture you just mentioned is very important, because when we are talking about digital transformation, artificial intelligence, I think this is a point which gets a bit into the background, because we are trying to focus so much really on the technology, but definitely cultural surrounding environment who actually enables the digital transformation we should never forget about it.
And you, as I said, you have to sell the results to your own customers, and that's very important.
And you have to add, if I may add this artificial intelligence in your own processes. And I think culture, I didn't mention it, but it's a very important topic. If you replace gut feelings or experience from a colleague through an algorithm, it's a long way to get there. That people understand and accept it.
And gut feeling is often good.
Yeah, it's not the bad.
Great, thank you so far for the discussion, the answers. We have from the audience a couple of questions. Let's just start with the first one, which was I think highlighted also 3 times. Have you considered sampling to balance out the data set for default prediction? I think this goes into your direction, Thomas.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know if I have the exact technical answer. As far as I understood it from the profis, to say that was that the amount of defaults are too less, that you don't get into an area where it's not guessing. If the variation is bigger than the amounts of defaults we have. But to be honest, to answer the question from a technological point of view, I have to go into detail.
Then we have, what do AI companies not understand about the logistics business?
I would say, I mean, I don't know if AI companies do not understand it, but I have to highlight that logistics at the end of the day is people's business. So we are making, and I'm talking not about the innovation manager, but as a CEO of a logistics group. And in order to make business with customers, we need interpersonal relationships. And I'm not sure if they are so aware about that, but I see AI as a tool to improve our financial results, but business we do with people.
To add something, a lot of AI companies I dealt with are coming from production side and service. We are a service provider, and then sometimes it's difficult to take some problems or solutions from one area and to put it into another one. And in the end, you need a lot of domain knowledge and that also they have to come from the company itself. That's why we try to do co-creation projects, I would say, to fill that gap.
Okay, all right. Then who at your companies defines use cases and is in charge of driving and launching a project? Business or innovation / IT or both together? This goes into both directions, Wilhelm and Thomas.
Yeah, the question is good, and I have to think a little bit. I would say we have a very professional and very modern and young digitalization team who take up the issues, but at the end of the day, who defines that about what issues this department should take care of is at the end the management. And the management, although they are maybe not that professional in digitalization and IT, they define what the digitalization department should take care of, in our company at least.
I would say at Gebrüder Weiss it's not so different. We have a little budget in the innovation department to make some little tests, but if you're talking about bigger projects, we are developing them together with the colleagues from the departments, but in the end, the money is coming from the management.
All right, thank you. So looking at the time, there is time left for one last question. Maybe let's choose. Just let's take the one from the top. Are there any collaborations on the digital Silk Road?
I'm not aware of right now.
Me neither.
All right. So yeah, looking at the time, unfortunately, we need to stop here. But for sure, whenever there are more questions from the audience, feel free. At least you can always contact me via the B2Match platform, via LinkedIn. I'm happy to help and get in touch about AI potentials, AI use cases. Wilhelm, Thomas, many thanks for these valuable inputs. It was very interesting talking to you. And I think we are then back in 10 minutes with the next session. So keep on enjoying the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me just add one thing. I got via email some invitations for talks. Unfortunately, our IT security system didn't let me answer to that. So I apologize, but I'm sure you will share my email. And if somebody wants to get direct in contact with me, is very welcome. But I'm really sorry that I didn't respond to these invitations.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
still have to change the name in the bottom.
Yeah. I did not get renamed in the coffee break. Don't worry.
This is who we are.
Yeah. So yeah, welcome to the next session. It's actually quite funny because the 2 speeches ago, Martijn from the Netherlands was presenting this landscape of startups and scale-ups in Europe. And yeah, one of the companies you mentioned dealing with drones and warehouse logistics is actually now on stage. So say welcome to, or say hello to Maximilian Mrystik from Daria. Hi, Max.
Hi, Jens. Good to see you.
Can you hear us well? We hear you loud and clearly.
Yep, perfect.
And we want to hand over the stage to you. I see we already have some slides for you and ask you for your presentation and talk to you in a bit. Don't forget to ask Maximilian questions, which we will answer in the Q&A session after his presentation. Talk to you in a bit.
Thank you, gentlemen. Dear audience, good to be here this afternoon. Thanks for your time. I'll take you on a short trip on our journey that Daria made, where we're using drones as a perfect platform of exploring the potential of artificial intelligence. My name is Maximilian Mrystik. I'm coming from the logistics consultancy, where we felt the need almost 2 years ago to go deeper, to have a solution ready for the market in Industry 4.0, heading towards digitalization. And this is where Daria was invented, where we're taking drones for use cases in the context of warehouse inventory management. Relying here on proven technology from the world market leader in drone technology, DJI. And today I want to show you and give you some insights on what this technology is capable to do and what Daria is doing about it. I'm trying to display the first video here. Maybe the colleagues want to introduce that one. Thank you. So what are drones doing? We're jumping right into artificial intelligence. Basically, we're flying in warehouses, collecting multiple data with the sensors available from DJI. With our autonomous flight, we, for the first instance, are capable of reducing the manual efforts for doing this non-value added task, which means we're collecting data and we're checking for failure. And secondly, the data coming from the drone as such can be used from our algorithms for object recognition and failure detection. What we're doing based on that is that we are displaying this to our customers and our user interfaces, giving them the opportunity to have machine readable data available, to have a digital twin to check for failures and initiate corrective actions. In this field, I'd like to take you on that little trip today and give you some more insights on how this is done and where we're jumping into artificial intelligence on that. Why we're doing all that, basically, logistics is, will try to cut my head for that sentence, but after all, transportation and storage, moving goods from A to B is not creating value for the customer and for our products that we're about to sell once in a while. And therefore, we feel that logistics has to be kept to a very minimum. In Toyota production system, it's called MUDA, which is the Japanese term for waste. So minimizing MUDA in logistics is the mission we're on. And this is one of our premises that we taken into consideration when it's about which technology can be used to take the least or the most efficiency in our processes, not only in terms of profitability, but also in terms of sustainability. So how can we take logistics to a next level, to a new era, using the benefits of artificial intelligence and machine learning? How can we use the information we have on the shop floor? The information is out there. How can we collect this information with our sensors to detect failure, to detect deviations, learn out of that, and set the corrective actions at the first moment we detect it? How can we initiate analysis out of that in order to overcome the competitive challenge, which is globally appearing, where different regions are competing against each other, and especially in Europe, where we have relatively high labor cost. This is one of the motivating factors why we jumped into this game, and why we're so keen on bringing this into the European logistics systems. Why is that, and what's behind it, or why we're doing that? Muda is the term in the headline, but it's all about failure. Logistic systems have come to a very high level process with high reliability. But as the pandemic has shown us, the resilience of the supply chain, the risk management, and the handling of deviation has become even more relevant in the last decades. So if we're talking about the 97% capable system, our mission is to get the last 3% out of it, and using the technologies that are available in the market in order to take the process quality to the next level. This is all about distribution, to take the first use case, when it comes to preventing picking mistakes, error rates, transshipping, replacement shippings. Each and every one of us who has ordered from Amazon birthday presents, Christmas presents, getting the wrong article is something that's really annoying, and certainly will lead to very bad feedback results that no one contributing to this market can afford. Secondly, production supply. If the warehouse filled up with raw material is not well managed, and we see that there are deviations between the system records and the physical world, production supply may lead to standstill in production, to downtimes, to lost capacities, which again is something in terms of the overall performance with negative harm. So this is secondly where we jump right in. And the third aspect is about the availability of packaging material. We heard earlier today, container availability, backflow, return flows is something to be kept in mind when we talk about logistics and the availability of logistics systems. So all these three aspects are contributing us or pushing us to use the capabilities of not only the drones and the automatic flight mode, but also of the AI capabilities that we developed in order to take the maximum out of the information we gain from the shop floor. And actually, this is what we're doing in our installations, where we first of all transform the physical objects into digital data. So you may call it just taking a video clip, but there's so much more behind that, with high resolution cameras to make sure that each and every object detectable in this sequence becomes a digital item, becomes recognized through pattern recognition, through deep learning algorithms and our neural networks, where we train our system and we train our drone to become more and more capable with each and every flight. This is not only about reading barcodes and detecting storage location versus the material identification number. This goes far beyond. This goes in OCR, where we start reading text from the label, where we also pushing hard to read handmade notifications. But even a part of the information transparent on the goods, we're pushing towards reading information from the surrounding, from the packaging, from the goods stored, from the packaging material used. Depending on the industry, there are different standards applied for material on stock, where there may be packaging specifications, let it be wire boxes or cardboard boxes, the little blue boxes, KLTs as we call them. These might be specified for a certain product, and reading the information out of our video sequences, we can make sure that we compare the specification versus the as is, and tell our customers whether that supplier for this particular part number has used the correct packaging in that way. And this is information available in our system, in our user interfaces, that can be later downloaded and used for downstream systems for additional use cases. Let it be supply evaluation, let it be the inventory that needs to be aligned with the financial accounting at least once a year, or optimization steps used in consultancy when it comes to utilization of warehouses, simulation of warehouse material movements, and many use cases more. The thing is, we have very proven technology. Drones used are capable of flying automatically, heading towards autonomous flights. And secondly, the information collected by the drones is so full of power that we can use for more precise planning, for more reliable, based on more reliable information. And this allows us an online monitoring of our logistics processes. So everything we've seen in these big resilience monitors lately is information that a drone can provide, load up to kind of a server, and have a good overview of the as-is circumstances of this digital twin in different warehouses. How are we doing this? Again, with a short sequence before we jump into the question and answer session. We've always been asked 30 minutes drone battery, how you overcome your battery lifetime. So here we want to show you in the second sequence how we're doing that. So let's start that one, please. The answer is quite simple. Our technology and our IP, the IP of Daria, is not in the drone as such, but it's in the control unit, and it's the smartphones we're using for the drone operation. Therefore, the drone as such and its battery pack and its flying time is a commodity product that we can, based on the requirements of our customers, simply multiply. Drones as a commodity are not the cost driving factor anymore. So we can multiply the number of drones in use, therefore reduce our lead time, reduce the manual effort in terms of battery lifetime. And as we've been asked lately, battery lifetime and flight duration is a relation between the use case in terms of the warehouse size and the number of storage location to be flown, and the time span you want to take out of that. So we can cope with that quite well. And this is it for the moment. This is it with our use cases. And now I'm happy to answer the questions you may have.
All right. Thank you so much for your presentation, Maximilian. And right, we remove your slide for a second to pull up the questions that we have received from the audience.
Yeah, so far 3 questions.
Let's see. Okay. How about we start with the first one, Clemens? Rudolf is asking,
how did you overcome the lack of lateral sensors on the Mavics?
Basically, or to stay in the beginning, I'm not the technician here, I'm the logistics guy, but I do my best. We're using the picture data not only to derive logistics information out of that, but we do the orientation along the staples as well. So we're using not only the sensors on board of the DJI drones, but we also take the picture information given for orientation in our flight sequences. An impact factor for the drone flight are the patterns. So the number of layers, the height of each layer. So this gives the drone the pattern where the drone is capable of orienting and flying along aisle by aisle.
Okay, thank you. Then the next one.
This moved up.
Yeah, I think this question got cut in half. Who are the typical customers of this solution? I think the
automotive.
Yeah, I think the person means which type of industries.
Yeah.
Is it like automotive, soft commodities, and so on?
Mm-hmm. No, that's a very good question, and it took some time to find it out for ourselves. But now we're convinced. It's basically the big logistic companies, 3PLs, 4PLs. because they have a certain challenge, which is called multi-customer warehouses. So they're not running their own inventory there, but they're having multiple customers in one warehouse, where each and every customer has its regulations and standards for inventory control. And this is very much related to the value, the complexity, and let's call it the theft risk of inventory checks. So this is our primary customer group. But there's a very other interesting group, and this is where we're differentiating a little. These are small companies who are not yet where we feel logistic excellence is playing, which don't have a consistent labeling, which don't have a consistent scanning mode. You remember Cargo Partner yesterday, I said we can very well rely on our scanners. Yes, they can, because they have an end-to-end barcode scanning process. Wherever there are small, medium companies, as we feel we have them in Austria a lot, they don't have these consistent processes yet. And we offer the drone flights as a service. So we're not only licensing the product, we come to your facility. We have a one-day flight for 15, 20,000 rack positions, and you get a web link to our user interface, and you can download the CSV with your results. You can click each and every storage location and have your digital twin ready. And this is something you don't need to invest tens and tens of thousands of euros, but this comes for lower rates because we offer that as a service to smaller companies who feel it does really make sense to fly once a month, every other month, to increase the reliability on inventory data.
Here I directly want to follow up with another question because it just fits perfectly. It's from Mr. Anonymous or Mrs. Anonymous. It's asking, what is the pricing model? Is it per sum, cubic meter, number of items? And please could you provide a cost estimate for your solution?
Yeah. One thing is the licensing of the product, but what I've said lately was about the services, and this comes depending on where the customer is and the structure of the warehouses, between 3,500 and 4,000 euros per day. So this is the daily rate, and we can cover it between 15 and 20,000 warehouse rack locations within that one day. So this is about that rate.
Mm-hmm. And the last question, the obvious question, because we are in Europe, what are the biggest obstacles in terms of regulation to roll out your solution? And are there industries where it's especially difficult or easy? I think this also goes in the direction of labor unions and so on, that do employee tracking or so on.
There are three different stakeholders that we need to keep in mind. One is all about, you said it before, the unions, which first of all feel that we're cutting heads. We're setting free resources. To our understanding, yes, we're setting free resources, but humans are capable of so much more than searching for things and counting things, that you should better invest your people in high level tasks. We feel that these unions, they need transparency, they need the explanation of the use case, why we're doing that, what's the benefit out of it, and that can contribute to a higher value. Number one. Secondly, it's all about safety issues. We all know drones. Many people are afraid of drones. So all this comes with introductions, with teaching, taking people by their hand, explaining technology, and making sure that the whole system is capable. We run through a very complex process called SORA, Specific Operations Risk Assessment, where we got certified for the things we're doing, the way we're doing it, and this is aviation standards. So we comply to aviation standards, taking them into the warehouse to making sure that we have the maximum safety that needs to be applied, which certainly is a big thing to talk when we talk about autonomous flight. Today, it's automatic. This means we have an observer watching the drone while flying, taking the drone down to the floor in the moment we see there's any deviation. But this is what we were not only capable, but allowed to do. We're capable to do more, and we're preparing to get these regulatory circumstances ready to make sure that we take the next big step, which is beyond visual line of sight, flight without an operator.
Excellent. Yeah, I also have a product suggestion. I mean, if you say this shared warehouses with several parties, you should offer a B2C version, because if you live together, family with kids, that would be amazing if each person could find their own items.
We take it to your home, Clemens, and see how this relates.
Are there any famous final words you would like to say, or are there, like previous speakers did, is there any material you would like to share? You can either write it directly in the chat on LinkedIn or give it to us so we can disseminate it among the participants.
We'll do. We have a big coming out, preparing, but little sneak preview. We'll offer a bet. We'll offer a bet to Austrian companies. We'll come to your subsidiary for €0. The only thing we charge is each and every deviation we find. So we'll limit that to our daily rate of €3,800. We take €100 for every deviation we find. So we'll challenge your logistics. You tell us you have 0 failure. I take the bet. If you have 0 failure, you pay €0. But for each and every failure I find, I get €100, and it will not be more than 3,800 per day. So here's the invitation. We're just preparing the media rollout on that. I'd be more than happy to have this bet with lots and lots of Austrian companies to see how they perform and see that they have added value, because each and every failure we find is certainly higher in value than €100, because this is one disappointed customer.
Wonderful. This is quite a challenge, and please put that in your materials that you will share with us and we share with you. Thank you so much, Maximilian, for your presentation. Please stick around for the meetings, and I wish you a good day.
Thanks a lot, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
See you. Thanks, gents. Have fun. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, and we will be back in about 10 minutes. No.
8 minutes.
8 minutes, and have a short break with the preview for the next speakers, which will be a panel discussion on material replenishment. So stay with us and see you a little bit later. welcome back from the break. We are back for our next panel discussion.
It's actually a use case presentation. So with us, we welcome Dr. Hubert Fratzel from First Alpine, High Performance Metals. Hello, Mr. Fratzel.
Hello, good afternoon.
And Mr. Marcel Wasserer, the CTO of Enlight AI. Hello.
Good afternoon.
And yeah, we would like to give over the stage to you for your presentation, use case presentation on reinforcement learning in stock replenishment. I see you have already shared your slides. Maybe you can go to the first one. And here we have them. The stage is yours, and we see each other in about
20 minutes or 15 minutes in the Q&A round. So, all the best.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to talk to you about a topic what actually I'm after since more than 30 years, going back to the 80s, where the personal computers were just entering the offices, and SAP was about to implement R2, and today I'm head of global operations in the Value-Added Services business unit. This is a business unit of high performance metals at First Alpine. Looking back to some experience in various industries and also 5 years in consulting at a company called Accenture. Marcel?
Yeah, my name is Marcel Wasserer, so I'm the co-founder and CTO of Enlight. My background is more on the, let's say, hands-on implementation side. So during the last years, I had the opportunity together with my team to realize around 50 different projects for a broad range of industries. Allow me a few words about Enlight AI. So Enlight is a full service provider around artificial intelligence, and we are based in Vienna and covering the whole spectrum from AI strategy and transformation down to the implementation side. But we do not only apply what's already available in terms of technology. We also picked two specific technologies. This is reinforcement learning and generative adversarial networks, where we conduct our own industrial research, and from there transform this research knowledge to actionable enterprise products.
Yeah, a few words to First Alpine. First Alpine is a global steelmaking and technology company consisting of 4 divisions. The metal forming division is producing profiles and special systems for storage systems. We have the metal engineering division, world market leader in rails and turnouts. The steel division, quality market leader in heavy plates and strip steel. And I'm based in high performance metals, world market leader in tool steel, high speed steel, and special materials. Our division, Marcel, thank you. Our division is very global. Is a very global company with 140 locations around the globe. We had 13,400 people working last business year. This business year is a little bit less, and around about 3 billion turnover. What you see on the picture is a typical shape of our material. So we have round bars and flat material. It doesn't look as high-tech as it actually is. We're talking about a real high-tech product, extremely clean, extreme tough, extreme hard, made for the toughest applications in aircraft engines, oil drills, or high-demanding tool steel applications. This is our geographic footprint. You see the 140 locations around the globe. In every location is signed by a blue dot, and in these locations we have service operations like heat treatment, some also offering coating, texturing. But in every location we have a stock and we have cutting. And in every location, therefore, we have an inventory planner who is ordering at central stocks, and the red dots are our mills where we carry central stocks and produce the steel. Next slide, please. Yeah, this brings me to the base problem or the base challenge we have. We are carrying in our division around about 1 billion of inventory. Our 140 locations are running all SAP, and in all locations we have qualified people doing the inventory planning according to the best knowledge of demand, supply, and efficiency. We have the clear strategy of customer intimacy, meaning we want to deliver fast and reliable customer service. And here comes already the clear issue of our big supply chain. We do have a production time of 4 to 6 months, but we have a delivery time to our customers of 24 to 48 hours. Our typical production lot in a steel mill is around 35 to 100 tons. Our average every order size to the end customer is around about 50 kilos. Yeah, we have the last years invested quite a lot in software and people, but still our biggest problem is the bullwhip effect, what has always hurt us according to the business cycle. Next slide. Explaining the bullwhip effect, of course, you guys are all aware of the bullwhip effect, but it's so important for us that I would like to spend a few minutes with it. And typically I'm using a train model as for showing the supply chain with the locomotive is the market, and we have the wagons along the supply chain, but the wagons are connected with springs, not with fixed connections, is connected with springs. This means when the market goes off, let's assume the market is the automotive market, and people like to buy more cars because they are not so keen to travel in public transport anymore with 100 other people, where in the average 2 of those are carrying COVID-19 virus. So they want to buy new cars, and so the car manufacturing are approaching the tool users to produce a tool for the new car model. But the tool user has to approach the tool maker for the new tool. So the tool maker doesn't have the tool on stock. They doesn't have the steel on stock to produce the tool. The tool maker has to approach our sales stock in order to deliver the pre-material. Typically, the market goes off at all countries, in all automotive companies around the world. So all the tool makers come at the same time to our stock, and we can deliver when the market really goes off only a part of it. So the sales go to the central stock asking for replenishment their stock, but they are also asking for even more because the replenishment models say market goes off, market demand is higher, we have to carry higher stock. And the same happens in the central stock. And in the production, they have to build up a new shift, they have to get the raw material, so they need a few months to build up their production, and then it takes, as I said before, 4 to 6 months to produce. And when they have produced and delivered to central stock and delivered to sales stock and to the tool maker and the tool user were producing the parts, the market is already shrinking because the people all have their cars bought, and COVID crisis is gone, and basically the production is running. And at the end, the production is crashing against the central stock. And that's something what happens. It happens not only with serious crisis, if we have it right now with the pandemic or with the global financial crisis we had 12 years ago. It happens also with business cycles in between. We all know that, and the only thing we can do against it is we have to replace these springs, again, fixed connections. So we have to plan the production according to the market and not according to any supply chain partner in between. Next slide, please. So the next challenge we are actually facing is we have our typical reorder point system for the replenishment. You see the two formulas. I think everybody knows that very well. But we have problems with this formula because with every single parameter you have in this formula, there is something difficult with it. Starting with the demand, as I said before, the demand is not really known. It's even wrong because you have always to look at the end customer demand, and typically you just look at the demand at your direct customer, the next supply chain partner. But this partner is depending on his customer, and this customer is again depending on his customer. And this demand actually is not the real demand, it's just the demand that was created by your customer. Order costs. Who really knows the order costs? Typically, you have no clue, or you have an estimate what your order could cost, but the real cost of an order you typically don't have. Inventory carrying costs is depending on interest rates. So what interest rates are you underlying here? You can take the interest rate what you typically have from the market, from the banks. You can underlie the dividend expectations your shareholder have on the company, what is typically much more than the interest rate. Or you can take a WACC, what is typically even more, and you have a big difference, a big variety, and whatever you take, the result of your reorder quantity will be much different. This next, safety stock. Safety stock. What would you take as a safety stock? Do you think your customer would care if your safety stock is 99, 98, or 97%? You can't really say if the customer is more does he like you more if you have a 99 safety stock compared to a 98%. You just take any number, what you feel is all right, but this is definitely not a mathematical optimum because it's just something out of your feeling. And then it comes to the average. And average is always something what is very difficult. You can calculate everything and can get every result. You just have to take the wrong average and then you get anything. Why? First of all, if you take the average of a wrong number, and we said already the demand is wrong because it's the demand just of your next supply chain partner, then the average is even more wrong than the original number. And to take an average, you have to have a distribution function behind. And typically, because it's easy to calculate, you take the standard distribution. And what you see here on the left end of the standard distribution, it's going to be negative. What does it mean? A negative sales. Actually, we had a negative sales in January 2009. I remember very well. We had more cancellations than orders. What's a disaster? So you can't really survive with negative sales. So in fact, this is something what must not happen. If you have a product where you have negative sales, you have to phase out this product immediately. So this is something what is simple, not relevant for your replenishment. So you have to do something different. You have to have a distribution function like a gamma distribution, what is much more difficult to calculate. You have two parameters to calculate, which again is something what typically is just estimated with the tick sum and not really proven mathematics. Next slide, please. Yeah, and then I come to a very practical third challenge, which are dependencies between our articles. If a typical starting material is what you see here, it's a block. A block of one steel grade, you have one SKU, you get a customer order with length, width, and thickness. you cut it out of this block. So you can cut out of this block any custom order which is within this boundary condition of this block. You can also start with a bar material. If you have the thickness and the width on stock, you can just cut the lengths. You can serve the customer quickly without major cutting costs. The disadvantage, obviously, you have several hundred or at least 100 plus SKUs on stock. A compromise is plate. With a plate, you have one thickness fixed, so you just cut the width and the length. What you have also to consider, whatever you take, you have scrap, because you have some residual pieces what you can't use anymore, and typically if you cut a block, you're ending up with 15% of scrap. This, in other words, when you buy such a block, you can immediately downgrade the value of the block by 15%, because this 15% is in the average material for the bin. With a bar material, typically you are ending up with only 5% of scrap. So this is much more effective in terms of yield. So you have to answer to yourself 3 questions. The first question is, what is your starting material? Should it be a block? Should it be a bar? Should it be a plate? And typically, it's not even the question one of those 3. The answer might be all 3, because you have high runners. You might like to have a bar. You like to have a block as well to serve the slow moving material, and you might have a plate as well. Good, next slide. Yeah. What pieces are considered as prime stock? You see in the middle the pieces. What is prime stock of this? Might be prime stock, other part might be not. And you have to understand what piece do you take in order to serve the customer properly. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this means that the problem itself is extremely complex and traditionally basically not to be resolved. You have multiple objectives. This means you need to plan in scenarios. Sometimes processing costs are more important than service level. And the next time the inventory is more important. So you have to plan in scenarios, and you have the uncertainty of in demand and supply, and as well the uncertainty in your stock. What should be an acceptable safety stock, and in your operation, if something happens, this uncertainty you always have. So our new approach is now we are looking into reinforcement learning, and we hope that we will as good as the best planner, or maybe even better than the best planner, and we will also cope with the high complexity in the inventory. Marcel?
Yep, thank you. Then I will take it from here. So in the next around 10 minutes, I will try to introduce you the basic concepts of reinforcement learning and how we applied this to the stock replenishment problem. And this will be a more technical part. And after that, Mr. Fatzl is going to take over again and present the first results we are seeing from this approach. But first, let's ask the question: why do we need reinforcement learning at all? So one of the main motivations to use reinforcement learning here is because reinforcement learning can be scaled to very complex problems, and this can be explained partially because it uses the same underlying deep neural network structures that are already established in other domains like image recognition or text. And we can, also in reinforcement learning, we benefit from the same advances that we saw there during the last years. And neural networks are feature representation learners, which means that we do not need to explicitly program domain-specific knowledge into the systems. Instead, otherwise very complex to realize things like the consideration of global interdependencies can be recognized in a very natural way. The second big advantage is adaptability. So we can use very flexible cost terms and combine them freely. And also the reinforcement learning framework promotes the emergence of long-term strategies. This is because we are not only looking into the performance of an agent in an instant of time, but instead we are assessing the performance of the agent over a longer period of time. In our case, it's more than a year, and only after we looked at the cumulative performance of the agent in every single day, we decide, also the algorithm decides in which direction it should progress. And the last point on this list is, of course, just a requirement from any real-world process. So we need to deal with uncertainty. Any real process is unpredictable after some point. And fortunately, most reinforcement learning algorithms are able to handle the uncertainty. And also during the training process, I mean, the agents implicitly need to pick up a good strategy to cope with uncertainty, because otherwise they would just not perform as other agents do. Then let me briefly walk you through the reinforcement learning framework, and show you some historical milestones, so to say. So the history goes back to the 50s, like with almost all machine learning methods. But for us, it's getting more interesting around 2013, when the first simple video games have been solved with reinforcement learning. So this is on the upper left corner, you see an example of an Atari game. Of course, still a simple game and still little to no relevance to the real world. But the methods has been scaled and evolved since then. It has been applied to Go, to StarCraft, and also to Dota. And those three games might you might not be that familiar to those three games, but all three games have very well financed professional leagues behind them, and those systems have been able to beat the world champions there. And this can be seen as a proof of concept that it's possible to come up with really let's say complex new strategies, because otherwise such a this would not have been possible for those systems to beat the best human players under equal circumstances. What does this have to do with our logistics problems? So games and real-world processes are both sequential decision problems. Of course, in order to tackle such a problem, there are a few more prerequisites to be met. But in general, reinforcement learning is able to, also with reinforcement learning, it's possible to address the majority of real-world problems, as long as there's a simulation available, but more on that later. So let me quickly introduce the single most important concept of reinforcement learning. This is the agent-environment interaction loop. And I will walk you briefly through with three simple questions. So first, we need to decide where we want to optimize the system. And this is usually simple answered because we have an established process that we want to optimize. And the representation for that is the environment. The next question is, what do we want to optimize for? So of course, it's not, it doesn't make sense to optimize the environment as a whole. We need to say and to tell in cost functions and other metrics to guide the optimization process. And this is done by the reward that can be seen as a scoring system. Also, the state is important in our case. The state should contain all information that's necessary to come up with the actual decision. And this is the last part, the how to optimize. This is the responsibility of the agent. From the top level concept, it's quite simple. We just expect the agent to come up with the best possible sequence of actions. And the reinforcement learning algorithms, of course, need to take care that this goes into the right direction by really learning interactively from interaction. I would like to take a minute and contrast this with supervised machine learning, which is at the core of most established machine learning solutions. Assume we have a simple classification system, image classification system, and we present an image of a cat. Of course, we expect the classifier to predict the label cat, and this is a simple process. We can also immediately decide if the label is right or wrong. Below, we see the situation for a reinforcement learning agent. Let's just assume we present the initial state of a tic-tac-toe game, and the agent should tell the next move, and decides to take the center move. Now at this point, it's hard to provide direct feedback to the agent because we just need to walk through the development of the game, and only afterwards we will be able to judge the performance of the agent. And from there, it's intuitively clear that reinforcement learning is an entirely different class of machine learning. And I think most of the fascinating use cases that have been shown at this conference and in general are powered by prediction models. And we are just at the beginning to see the adoption of this reinforcement learning framework that can also go one step further and optimize whole strategies into the industry. But now let's look more specifically to the stock replenishment problem and how we address this. And for that, the most important component is the simulation. It's also, let's say, promoted under its more fashionable name, digital twin. And this picture should already look familiar. So this time in the blue box, we have a specific version of the environment, the replenishment environment that contains all the mechanics that's necessary to simulate the replenishment process. And up there is now the replenishment agent with concrete actions. So this agent is queried every single day to come up with a list of products and quantities that should be ordered and should be purchased. But this system does not live in isolation. So we are interfacing with the customer order cycle, with the production cycle. And those are systems that are already established. So the aim of such projects is not to redefine the whole, let's say, the whole process. So this is not what reinforcement learning can do. Reinforcement learning can take an existing process and make the optimize for the best possible decisions to be made within those existing landscape. And in our case, we are embedding our system into an existing SAP system. Just a few more words to the simulation environment because it's of such importance for this kind of projects. So we are training our agents for millions of simulated years, which means that, of course, the digital twin needs to be fast, but not only fast, it also needs to be very close to the reality, because otherwise we cannot expect that we take an agent out of this training process, deploy it in a real system and get a reasonable performance. So this is really the most important component. And today, unfortunately, suitable digital twins are really a rarity. So it feels, at least from the development side, it feels a little bit like the pre-ImageNet era, where there have not been big data sets out there. And I think this, we will see the emergence of much more practically usable digital twins in the upcoming years, just because this is it's just the next logical step after aggregating the data. And what are the costs that are going into the reinforcement learning system that we are targeting our optimization? So of course we need to look at the inventory cost. That's quite clear because we want to reduce the stock levels. We also need to avoid the trivial solution. So that would be zero inventory. So we also need the stock out costs to cover for that. So because zero inventory would lead to 100% stock out, that's we need to balance somehow those two terms. And also we need to balance the inventory cost with the cutting cost. As we saw earlier, Mr. Fassler showed us the two different strategies with actually three different strategies with plate, blocks, and bars. And there is a large trade-off, and it's not only related to the article, also to the let's say product that are produced, but also to the intermediate products that are the result of this cutting process. So the agent faces multiple conflicting objectives, and our way to treat this is to introduce weighting factors. And on top of that, we are also calculating KPIs similar to the KPIs that are used in production to be able to compare our performance to the real system. And just as a side note, some costs of the real process, so there can also be the situation where it's easier to measure the cost in a simulation than in a real environment. We see this, for example, in the real demand versus the consumption. So we do not know the real demand of the customer. We only know what has been sold. And also sometimes it might occur that customer orders do not materialize. So, but this, of course, it's not feasible to track all kinds of reasons that could lead to that. So I'm coming towards the end of this technical part, and the last remark is on the agent. So far, we only discussed the replenishment agent, but during the project, we found out that also the cutting, also the make-to-order process, has a very large effect on the performance of the inventory management, and this. Fortunately, in the reinforcement learning framework, it's also possible to train multiple agents at once and to align these agents with a common objective structure. And this is exactly what we did here. So we trained those two agents from scratch for millions of years. And so starting from pure random try and error, it was also for us from a technical point of view, it was quite surprising that we got very, let's say, good performing agents working towards a common goal at the end. And from that, I return to Mr. Fratzel.
Yeah, the POC, the proof of concept has shown that we will reduce inventory at minimum by 10%. We also will reduce some cutting and material handling. And what's also quite important for us is we will have a proper knowledge exchange between, or a knowledge conservation of our best planner and the best and experienced planner are typically those who are close to retirement. So we will have all that in our AI tool, and now we are in the process of implementation, and we will see if it really materializes.
And I would like to finish this presentation by giving an outlook into other fields where reinforcement learning could achieve a high potential. So now we had an example of inventory management. This is especially interesting in cases where the materials are dynamic, as we have seen in this case. And this is not only relevant for the steel industry, because of course this is also relevant for the wood industry or for the chemical industry. And another class of problems we are tackling are vehicle routing problems, especially if they have a very dynamic and short planning horizon. And we are also working on production cases, like job shop scheduling is a kind of very general formulation of all kinds of production problems. And again, it's interesting to use reinforcement learning in those cases once we have a structure that produces complex dependencies or that has a dynamic nature in the planning process. And one last remark, also what we experienced in the last years globally, there is currently no software stack available to work on these kinds of applied reinforcement learning problems. And as we want to see more adoption in industry, we decided to open up large parts of our technology as an open source project. We call this the open source framework Maze. And this is available as an early version on GitHub. So this might be especially interesting for the data scientists and machine learning practitioners listening. This brings me to the end of the presentation. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Quite a lot of information, Hubert Fratzl and Marcel Wasserer. And people starting to send in questions. Not to forget that we have 1 minute delay with our video stream. Let's have a look at the questions. And here they are. Okay. The first two questions actually touch upon the topic of SAP. For once, how to integrate the solution with SAP, and for once, Nicola asks about the methodology. Can you shortly elaborate on that? How do you align?
We integrate with the SAP MRP process, and in some sense, we override the basic planning that is done there. But we do not really change the planning parameters that are collected there. So because SAP is a much more complex, also involves many more, let's say, input and output parameters that are relevant for us. So we focus really on the purchase requisition decision in our case. And for the second agent, this is some module that has been developed internally that is interfacing with an internal component that's used in the make-to-order process.
All right, thank you, Marcel. And we move on to question number 3. Long Fei asks, compared with traditional approximate solutions such as MIP, mixed integer problem, solution in operations research, how much progress has reinforcement learning made?
That's an interesting question, because actually I just, as I read about 1 year ago, that also one of the largest commercial mixed integer programming solver are now using reinforcement learning internally to optimize the cutting planes. So it somehow found its way to the mixed integer programming community or to these tools. But there are other aspects that are treated with reinforcement learning that mixed integer programming usually cannot cover, like this uncertainty. It's not that easy, also it's not easily possible with mixed integer programming to formulate different, let's say, potential futures. And this is something that reinforcement learning can do.
All right. And for the next question, Ruth asks, how long do you think the applied reinforcement learning project will take to reach a reasonable outcome from start to finish? I guess this question is for Hubert Fratzl.
Yeah, that's a difficult question. We took now around about 8 months to get the real result out of it, but we are already working on this for 6 to 8 months. So probably you can do it faster, but I think to really get enough deep into the problem and to get a broad understanding how to solve it, I think you should calculate at least a year or a year and a half.
I can add to this one more point. I think also that from the effort side, from a pure development side, what is causing the most effort is really the digital twin modeling, and this is something that the companies could also start work on their own, especially because reinforcement learning is for sure not the only field that would benefit from digital twin.
Interesting take. And an additional question to Marcel. Applied reinforcement learning doesn't sound like the typical startup topic. How did your company decide to pursue that route?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. No, for sure, it's not the typical startup topic, and there's really significant effort going into
What's the
this
typical
direction.
startup topic? Can we ask Mr. Anonymous what's?
No, it somehow originated from this idea of the AI lab. So we already did at this time industrial research, and we are also well connected to the research community in Europe, to Sepp Hochreiter, and also to the ELIS network. And from that, somehow it became, it got its own dynamics. And now with the framework, we are at a point where we can really, let's say, give something back to this community.
All right. Well, that concludes the Q&A session for now, unless we don't receive any further questions. Any final remarks from your side, Marcel Wasserer and Hubert Fratzel?
Yeah, from my side, I want to mention that we are very pleased with the cooperation with Enlight. I think we are really making progress, and it's not easy to understand our business. It is quite complex. Also, the material looks simple. So yeah, and now the next months will show if we really can materialize what we think.
All right, thank you very much. And funny thing, I saw Marcel's camera overheated, but can you still hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
now you look healthy again.
Yeah, I would also like to thank Mr. Fratzel and all this to give us the opportunity to work on this topic, because I think at the beginning when we started to work together, it was not much more than an idea to look into this topic, and I think this is making it's one of the first use cases, I think, globally that really tries to apply reinforcement learning at that scale.
Thank you so much, Marcel Wasserer and Hubert Fratzel. We wish you a good afternoon. Please stick around for the B2B meetings, and we head right on to our next and final session with a short intermittent video.
Yeah,
Talk to you in a second.
See you in 2 minutes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Back, hard cut.
Yeah, welcome to the final session of the AAIC Logistics, and I'm very happy that for this session we could present you the third organization partner of the event. It's the Plug and Play Tech Center. Yeah, you can already put Nick and Alexander online.
Hi, hello, Nick and Alexander.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be with you.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having us.
Picture works, sound works. Perfect.
Your pleasure is all on our side. And this is your session. I see you already shared some slides, and we may pull them up for a second.
Yeah, I'm going to let's start with our with Plug and Play maybe, and then I'll hand over to Alex. I'm just going to start sharing my screen as well.
All right, of course.
Yeah, maybe for context, why were we so eager to get Plug and Play as a partner, especially for a logistics event? I mean, Plug and Play has hundreds of investments and networking events each year, But when it comes to investments and activities in logistics startup, this is plug and play is the address to go. So if you look at TechCrunch or Crunchbase, I think you all invested or related to almost any startup doing AI and logistics. So it was quite natural to do this together with you, especially as you just recently opened the Vienna office.
Right. That's correct. Yes, we just opened our office in 2019 here in Vienna, and yeah, I'm also going to talk a little bit more about our investments later on.
All right, then I would say the stage is yours, and talk to you a little bit later in the Q&A session.
Thank you so much. Hey everyone, my name is Nick Monoretto. I'm responsible for corporate partnerships here at Plug and Play Vienna. And I'm really excited to be here today at this conference together with Alexander Leidinger from Sixfold, one of our, at the moment, most favorite logistics startups, also working with AI. So we just divided the session. I'm going to kick off. I'm going to talk a little bit about Plug and Play, what we do, so that you guys get a better context. And then I will hand over to Alex, who's then actually the specialist when it comes to logistics. So yeah, you've already mentioned Plug and Play. We are, on the one hand side, one of the most active venture capital funds with our headquarters in Silicon Valley. And on the other hand, we are basically the largest innovation platform, working together with large corporations and matching them with right technologies, startups, and yeah, just really interesting founders. But maybe to understand why we are here today and why we are actually in Vienna as well, I'd like to go back to where everything started, because this really gives a good context of where basically we as Plug and Play originate from. So it all dates back to the early 90s when our founder and CEO, Said Hamidi, you can see he's the guy in the bottom row, fourth person from the left with the phone, was basically at the right time at the right place. He had a building, 165 University Avenue in Palo Alto. And if any one of you were ever in Palo Alto or in Silicon Valley, that's really in the center and you can't really miss it. And one day, Larry Page and Sergey Brin moved in and basically had one of the first larger Google offices at Plug and Play. And from there on, Plug and Play really developed. Later on, PayPal moved in. We were one of the early investors in PayPal, and actually we reinvested the rent of the office in PayPal. So this was one of our early successes. And yeah, you can see that these companies here on the right side. Logitech had one of the first offices apart from Europe in the US with us. And also Danger, one of the first companies of Andy Rubin, who later on founded Android, was also basically part of the early Plug and Play network. And yeah, typically, as you do is as an American, you say, hey, this actually works pretty well in a small building, having young tech companies working from there. This has to work even better in an even larger building. So Said actually went out, bought a huge factory, a semiconductor factory, which is our headquarters today, hosting at any given point, if it's not COVID times, about 400 startups. And we offer them office space, we invest in the companies, we connect them to the right people, and we really try to foster pilot projects, product deployments, and POCs. And yeah, so this is where it all began, and now we are one of the most active investors in startups. Our current portfolio hosts 13 unicorns, which is actually more unicorns than Germany and Austria combined. So yeah, you can see some I think some very prominent names, maybe in the German-speaking region. N26 is one of the most well-known. But even during such difficult times like 2020, global pandemic, we actually were able to grow our portfolio of unicorns by 4. So you can see here we have Corsair, Applyboard, Big ID, and Customer, who actually got acquired by Facebook. So we are still growing, which is great. And this is just one part of Plug and Play. So we have about over 1,000 companies in our current portfolio, but the second part of Plug and Play, which is actually why we are now global, is our corporate partner network. So we work together with Fortune 1000 companies, and with from these Fortune 1000 companies with over 500 corporates, and helping them or supporting them in their innovation journey. So we really connect the biggest companies worldwide with relevant technologies and relevant startups, and really trying to solve specific use cases and pain points. And these corporates are basically distributed over 18 different verticals that we have already. So as you can see, we have practices when it comes to sustainability, energy, but maybe super relevant for you, everyone here, supply chain, smart cities, mobility, IoT. So all of that helps us to have an unfair advantage, I would say, when it comes to knowing what's going on in the different markets. This helps us to invest wisely, but also we always are aware of what's happening out in the world and where the trend's heading to. Maybe just one more thing. So here on the different verticals, we work together with large corporations, and maybe also here in Europe with DB Schenker, Daimler, Porsche, DHL, but also a lot of airports on our travel verticals, or huge corporations like PepsiCo. So it's really very diverse. And this is basically right now our footprint, our global footprint. So we have foot on the ground at almost every major city right now in over 30 different countries. Locations. And we started out in Silicon Valley. Now we're all the way to Tokyo, Osaka, and South Africa. And this helps us in really connecting the big corporates with startups, because we know that the local ecosystems pretty well. 2020 actually didn't stop us from growing. So we opened 9 new locations. You can see it here on the screen. One of the newest locations is actually Morocco in Marrakesh, and Osaka, for example. So, but this is all super nice that we're a global network, but how do we actually collaborate and work together with startups and corporates? And I think this is the beauty and the value that the Plug and Play brings to the table, because since we're so big and global, we can actually offer an all-in-one solution. So I always like to paint this picture of a country club where our partners basically come for the innovation, for technology, and for meeting startups. But in the end, they stay because we have this open innovation 360-degree approach where suddenly companies, let's say airports, because I'm sitting at the Vienna International Airport right now, who are maybe competitors, start exchanging ideas, do knowledge sharing and experience sharing between each other. And this is, I think, the immense value that Plug and Play brings to the table. It's community, it's events, but it's also really having a global network of ventures associates working together with these companies on solving real life problems. And as you can see here, we work with corporates, we work with startups, we work with over 200 partner venture capital companies, and we invest in a lot of companies. We invest in over 200 companies per year, so quite an amount. And and this all happens when I'm only going to touch on this really briefly, but this really happens on a granular level when we work with our partners on the different locations on problems. So here in Vienna, for example, we have 2 verticals. So we have a travel and hospitality vertical where we work together with Vienna International Airport, Fraport, Star Alliance, and all of their member carriers Or on the smart city side, we work together with utilities. We work together with insurance companies, with real estate developers, but also with logistics companies. And they approach us and they always have a specific use case in mind. And what we do is we really go out there and search for the right technology that is fitting to the problem that they face right now. In 2019, we hosted almost 1,830 deal flow sessions with always about between 4 to 6 startups. So let's say we met around 9,000 startups. And this is a huge number. This sounds nice, but I think it's important to understand what this means. It means that we as Plug and Play and we as our ventures team here on the different locations, we actually got to talk to 9,000 different startups. We got feedback, we got insights into the different industries. We got, we sat in meetings with C-levels from our corporate partners, with the startups. So we truly understand the different markets. And this is, in my opinion, pretty valuable to everyone here on the platform. And obviously, some partners want to invest with us, and we help them, do collaborative due diligence. Due diligence is a very, very important part when investing in startups. I think you all know that, and it can be a very, resourceful process. So our ventures associates really are always here to help everyone of our partners to, basically evaluate a company and see if this is a good fit for an investment or not. And Vienna, since you've mentioned it before, and I'm actually sitting in Vienna, we've been here on the ground since 2019. And we work together with 17 awesome corporate and strategic partners all around Europe. So not only with partners from Austria, but actually partners from Germany, from Belgium, from the Czech Republic, and also from Israel, which is super nice. That we have now a global footprint also in Vienna, and working together with the partners on a lot of interesting projects. And we're super curious what the future holds, because we had our selection day just 2 days before this event, and we really try to kick off new pilot projects with these partners. And yeah, let's see what the next 3 months bring. And here you can also see what smart cities are for us. So smart cities is really, it is a very broad topic for Plug and Play, but we focus here in Vienna especially on energy, mobility, real estate, and supply chains. And this is also the reason why we've asked Sixfold and Alex to join us here on today's session, because Plug and Play is really about giving a platform to the best startups that are out there to start to really solve problems and pains from corporate partners. And we work together with DB Schenker and DHL and US Postal Services and so on. So I think it is great that we can now really have also a platform for our startups here in Austria. And with that, I would really like to hand over to Alex to explain a little bit about what Sixfold does and how they are using artificial intelligence in their processes. And anyone who's interested in Plug and Play, what we do, and or if you just want to have a chat or just use our office space, you're always happy and you're always welcome here. And I'm always happy to take a call with everyone. So just reach out. I'm super happy to stay in touch. And Alex, I'd like to hand over to you now.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Nick, and good afternoon again from my side. My name is Alexander Leidinger. I'm working as a business consultant and customer success manager for Sixfold, and I'm super excited to introduce you to Sixfold today. Who are we? Sixfold is a real-time visibility provider. We were founded in 2017. We're now at 60 plus employees, hailing across 8 countries all across Europe, but with our main offices in Austria and Estonia. Where is my shipment and when will it arrive? This is actually the main question we're answering for our customers. As you all know, as consumers in times of booming e-commerce, we're used to know when our orders will arrive. It doesn't really matter what the value of the good is. If it's a pen for €1, a computer for 2,000, a TV, or whatever it is. However, at the same time, industrial shippers do not have this kind of visibility, even though their shipments are worth significantly more. So most of the times, if they want to get there, they actually have to conduct really manual processes, such as check calls. So basically picking up the phone and asking the carrier exactly this question: where is my shipment and when will it arrive? But who are we answering this question for? Basically for industrial scale shippers across various industries and of course logistic service providers. And what is it exactly that we offer? So our product consists mainly of 2 things. First of all, the location of your shipment, and secondly, the estimated time of arrival, the ETA. So meaning the transparency on when your shipment is going to arrive. All of that we deliver in a software as a service model, which is accessible via our Sixfold user interface or your leading system through interfacing with Sixfold. How does it all work? Which kind of data sets do we combine? And then how do we actually end up with the location of your shipment and the most important thing, actually, the ETA? Basically, we're aggregating a bunch of information from different partners all across the supply chain. But it's mainly 3 data sets we're combining. So first of all, the transport information, which is basically our customers telling us, hey, Sixfold, please track this shipment. The second one is the position data from carriers. We retrieve that with 3 possible options. So first of all, a direct telematics integration. Secondly, our mobile tracking app. And as a third option, an integration to a carrier's TMS system. The third set is basically external data such as maps, weather data, traffic data, and much more. By combining all of those data sets with our algorithms, we basically end up what I just explained. So the 2 things that actually are our product, which is the location of your shipment and the estimated time of arrival. Eventually, all of this information is then shared with all the participants of the supply chain. So meaning, first of all, of course, our customers, but also to the carrier who is executing the transport, and eventually the goods recipient. But let's take a look on a real life case. When first hearing about real-time visibility, some of you probably might think that's nothing new. It's actually called routing software or telematics system. But let's see if there's different. So we'll take a closer look on this example. So as you can see here, this is a tour or a transport from Ingolstadt, Germany to Znaim, Czech Republic. The arrival time itself is impacted by lots of different elements. So being it the type of the truck, the driving speed, the rest times of the driver, or the breaks the driver takes, different restrictions, weather, traffic, and a lot of things. And the example that I just mentioned, this tour from Germany to Czech Republic, is actually a tour that we know. We have seen this shipment now over 300 times already. It's basically a tour that's regularly driven for one of our customers, which is actually one of the major use cases. a lot of tours that are driven regularly for different customers, and basically we knowing those tours already, or let's say at a specific point of time. The green dots that you can see here on the maps are breaks, and the larger the dot is, the longer the break, so to say. When we see a shipment, it means actually we are learning. So we're learning geographically patterns. For example, where do breaks occur? We learn to see patterns in distance and time and combine them. So for example, after which distance do we see breaks and how long are they actually? And based on many of those patterns and combinations, our ETA is calculated. But let's take a deeper look on the very example of this lane and tour I just brought up. What you can see here is actually the very transport I mentioned, the one from Regensburg to Znaim. Each blue line actually represents a driven tour as it has happened. The black line represents a scheduled loading time, and the red parallel line is a scheduled delivery slot. At the bottom, you have an indication about the weekdays, and those white columns basically represent the time frame. So the white ones are basically 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and the gray ones are being 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. But the most important thing is actually the red dot that you can see here, because this is the ETA that we predicted at the start of the tour. So that actually means when the blue arrow hits the red dot, then our prediction was perfectly accurate already at the start of the tour. But let's have a look on a specific case here. Here you can see, even though the loading was missed by 12 hours, so there was a 12 hours delay to loading, the scheduled delivery time slot was perfectly met, and also at the same time perfectly predicted by us right from the start, when we did not even know about any delay for loading. Let's look at the second case. When looking at those two shipments, we're still, by the way, talking about the same transport from Regensburg to Znaim, just different days and different tours occurring over and over. When looking at those two shipments, they actually seem identically. It's the same loading time, same delivery time slot, and they actually also depart pretty much at the same time from the loading stop. However, the truck which is doing the first tour arrives 6 hours later than the second one. And that's actually exactly what we predicted right from the start. So meaning Friday noon, when the arrival was actually somewhat around morning or noon on Monday. But how is that? There are no obvious or direct or any easy to understand correlations here that might bring us to the point why we have been able to predict such things many days in advance. It's not possible to basically come up with these correlations or these combinations for us as humans, because we can't process that amount of data or actually even make sense of it. And that is exactly where the value of applying technology in order to utilize data lies, and which makes our prediction and our ETA so valuable for our customers. But having you now introduced to the very basic of our product, the ETA, I'd like to briefly show what's actually the status quo of real-time visibility and where we are moving towards. We've seen a significant increase in the adoption of real-time visibility. And in many industries, real-time visibility is already established as a standard. For example, last year we processed and tracked over 20 million shipments last year, and we have over 120,000 carriers connected to our platform, actually providing and delivering data and enabling us to track those transports. As well, we have seen that the COVID-19 pandemic actually was definitely a strong driver as well, with many companies realizing that visibility is actually the key element for navigating through such volatile situations. But we do not want to only provide visibility to our customers. We also want to utilize it for them. That means based on the insights we gain on the entire European freight market, we are going to help carriers and shippers to find connected loads and at the same time provide them with a data-driven option to actually select their optimal business partner. By that, we not only want to help our customers to be successful, but actually contribute to a greater goal and actually solve a general issue of the industry, which is basically empty mileage reduction. So this is something that we're really going to focus within the future, next month and years. Thanks a lot for the attention and looking forward to your questions.
Right, this is amazing that you already are working with so many carriers, and thank you for sharing that use case, and also thanks to you, Nick, for the introduction to Plug and Play. And what we are going to do now is we received a couple of questions, and maybe let's have a look at them together.
Yes. Okay, the first one is aimed at Alexander. It's a six-fold question. How long does it take to implement your solution at the customer? So that probably mean a new customer.
Like the onboarding, or?
Yeah.
So as you saw in the slide where I showed you what kind of data sets we're actually combining, you saw that one specific data set is coming from our customer, which in this case I would just take as a shipper. And this data set is the transport information. So meaning the customer telling us, hey, Sixfold tracks this transport, and the transport consists of like basic information such as where's the loading stop, where's the unloading stop, which carrier is actually executing the transport, and what's the time slot for those stops. And that's actually the only thing that we need from our customer. Everything else we get from external parties, meaning from our carrier network and any other external data set. So the only thing that has to happen from our customer side is basically connect to our API in order to transmit this transport information. So it's super easy actually to start a project. That's the only connection that has to be established, and anything else is done from our side. Probably also quite important to mention here, we do work together with Transporion, which is one of the biggest transport ecosystems, so to say, in Europe, which is a freight assignment platform and many things more, which means that a majority of European carriers and shippers are already using Transporion for freight assignment, time slot management, and such things, which means there has not to be anything else to be done basically from the shipper, because Transporion and Sixfold does have a running connection, which is a plug and play thing basically. So that means every shipper who is using Transporion can basically start at any given moment basically with Sixfold and real-time visibility.
So you're included in that transport management platform, Transporion. All right. Which maybe also kind of answers the next question that we have here. Ruth asks, do your clients also benefit from data learned from other clients? I guess so.
Yeah, that's really one of the main values actually our customers benefit from, because the insights that we're generating across our platform are not exclusively then applied for one customer, but it actually helps us to learn things from the whole European freight market, which are of course also applied for any parameters for any other customer. So if we see some specifics for regions, industries, seasonalities, whatever it might be, this is applied to any participant in the platform. So to answer your question, yes, everyone actually benefits from that.
All right. Thank you very much, Alexander. And we have another question. Don't forget, you can still post questions. This one is to Alexander, no, to Nick, I think. What are the next pitching days in Vienna, and for which topics or verticals? I think you mentioned that, but maybe you can repeat.
Yes, so we had our selection day just 2 days ago, and we always focus on our two main verticals in Vienna. So it is travel and smart cities, which again is a broad topic. But our 30+ offices have pitching days. I think you can find almost every month a pitching day at Plug and Play. So our Hamburg office would be the best office for logistics and supply chains. That's basically it. And we usually don't have really open calls for startups, but we actually find you when it comes to startups and technology. Yeah.
All right, then you should take a look at our participants. And I also saw that you organize a Disrupt Logistics event next week, actually on March 1st.
We do, together with, I think, our partner DSV, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but I saw some big names from the logistics industry in there as
yeah,
well.
Cargo, and so on. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and we have another question, actually from our friends and partners at the US Commercial Service. Nick, to what extent do you assist your companies also to enter and scale in the US?
So basically, to the extent that is needed from the company, we can, every startup that we invest in really gets access to our global network, and also can leverage our entire network. And this means that we do introductions where we see fit with our corporate partners also. So if a company, let's say an Austrian startup that we invested in, would like to go to the US and scale their business there, then we have over 200 people, I would say, sitting there and just waiting for the startup and to help them really grow. And this goes really in both directions. Same in the other direction. So if any of the startups want to go to Tokyo or vice versa, that's why we have a local presence also.
So wherever they need to go or grow. I guess that answers the question. And so there's the condition of startups that you invest in.
But also every other startup that we work with or that our corporate partners have interest in. So it is not a prerequisite that we invest in startups, that we work with startups.
All right.
So, for example, we haven't invested in Sixfold, but we see that there's a good fit for a lot of our corporate partners. So we really get engaged with the startups and then see how we can match and connect them with the right corporates. So it is not a prerequisite that we invest in a startup.
All right, understood. So Nick, you opened shop here in Vienna, and brings me also to the next question. Did you invest so far in Austrian startups? Anonymous wants to know.
So,
how much and how many?
So we as a Vienna office, we haven't invested in any Austrian startups so far. But Plug and Play, I would say we already invested in Austrian startups. There's always a discussion going on whether N26 is an Austrian startup or a Berlin-based startup. I think it's a 50-50 thing. So I would say this is one of the more prominent startups, or actually unicorns, where we were one of the super early investors.
All right. Well, so far, if there not any more questions left, I would say that concludes this one.
Yeah. Is there any further information you would like to share, or a call to action which we could also send out afterwards to the participants?
Alex, do you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. If there is any interest in real-time visibility, if you'd like to know more, just visit our homepage, reach out on sixfold.com, contact us on LinkedIn, social media, anything you'd like.
Yep.
Pretty much everything that Alex said, but also if you're ever around, just stop by our office here at the Vienna International Airport. We have a huge co-working space, so I'm always happy to have people here. Obviously, only right now in reasonable amounts, but yeah, just reach out. We're happy to connect everyone also to our US teams. We are an international team and a US company, so if you're interested in what basically open innovation can do and what we do with all the big corporates, then yeah, please just drop me an email. I'm super happy to get to know everyone. And thank you very much for hosting us.
Yeah, we thank you as well for joining, especially so close after your Vienna selection day.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time. Please share your slides with us, which we will forward to our participants. And yeah, I wish you a good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right.
Well, and this brings us to the end of the AAIC Logistics. So 36 speeches later, there we are. I hope you enjoyed the talks. We hope you still use the networking platform to make further B2B meetings, because we just discussed internally we will keep the platform open.
This is an important point. For all of you who are registered at the B2B matchmaking platform, we will switch the B2B matching sessions in an open mode, so you can keep on contacting and arranging meetings, of course with fair use principle, and hope that some more connections will be established during the meetings. From our side, from Advantage Austria, of course, we will also invite you to get in touch with our worldwide offices, as I always say, from Santiago to Tokyo. We are there for your Austrian business connections, and you're getting in touch with Austrian companies. And for AI Austria,
yeah, follow us on LinkedIn. That's what I always say after every second sentence. No, but in honesty, we mentioned during the lunch break the upcoming events. So that would be on AI Silicon in April, the big AAIC in May, and also before that, the small event on FinTech. If you have any ideas and so on, let's just get in touch. Most importantly, please have a look at the questionnaire we will send out after the event to get your feedback on format, future events, topics, speakers, and so on. So this brings us to the end. I hope you enjoyed everything. If not, that's also a topic for the feedback. And we wish you a nice evening, and yeah, goodbye.
Goodbye and thank you.